This episode is for Friday, June 17th, 2016. Welcome, Creator fans. I'm your host, Josh Owens, along with my co-host,
Abi Iyer.
Man, it just occurred to me, we got to get you on the website. I think it's still Ben's name and picture.
Oh, yeah?
The co-host.
Uh-oh. Finally getting rid of Ben.
Kick him to the curb. No, we love Ben. I wish he'd come back. I want him to come on more episodes of the Space Dojo show.
Yeah. He's tinkering with IoT,
Yeah.
He's doing his thing in a completely different world now.
Indeed. Yeah, I may have him on the show. We may just to get him back on. We'll talk about his new job.
That'd be cool. I think the listeners would like that too. They probably are sick of me, so they need to see Ben again.
All right, so this week we are talking about building a game with RethinkDB and Meteor, generators, Meteor 133, and soon 1331, and Meteor Camp 2016. Yeah.
Ooh, this is going to be very exciting.
Yeah, I'm very excited. The last topic's going to be fun. Yeah, so the first one today is it's all about, honestly, I think it's more about RethinkDB than it is about building the game.
Yeah.
Which left me a little sad. Is there code? Did he link to code? He didn't link to any code. He links to a website, dots and boxes. But it was built with Meteor and with RethinkDB. And he just talked about why RethinkDB felt like a good fit for this. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look here. Yeah, I feel like this wouldn't really be this particular app probably would not suffer from live query scaling problems. So there's a little irony in the post that he's talking about live query not scaling. I look at something like real user monitoring or application performance monitoring. Absolutely, those need some pretty hefty databases to deal with that kind of write load. And live query doesn't deal well with a heavy write load, in all honesty. But RethinkDB does look interesting, and he was able to get it all working. Just kind of running over everything and building his own queries and returning some stuff. And it's a decent read if you're interested in using RethinkDB. I don't know. To me, I actually think it might make more sense to do something like Apollo or GraphQL here.
Yeah.
Trying to munge into DDP personally.
Yeah, I mean, this post is kind of the use case for RethinkDB. I don't really see it here, right? With Meteor, all of the reactivity that we get is via MongoDB and live query, right? But he's making some claims that RethinkDB probably can scale better and maybe has less CPU usage and all that stuff. But I don't know how many products that are out there at scale using RethinkDB to manage their whole application.
Yeah.
Once I get some evidence on that, I can see their CPU usage, then I'll maybe believe some Rethink hype. But if you're making a to-do app and you're talking about scale, come on, man. I don't know. Viewers, you gotta realize what you're trying to measure, right? You need to test and measure. But you actually need to understand what you're measuring, right?
Yeah.
You cannot compare and contrast live query and RethinkDB for a small trivial app that has no concurrent connections, or even a data model that it can scale, right? The data structure for these games, I don't know what they are, but I bet you it's not a mass several collections or several tables of data, And I don't know how much writes, I don't know how frequently their DDP messages are constantly changing, or they're not even using DDP in this case, but that whole publish subscribe change invalidation stuff like what are those characteristics, right? So it's hard to read this post and say I'm going to start using Rethink DB tomorrow and forget live query. Like that does not make the case here.
Yeah, I would agree. Like we had an interesting talk with the CEO of Raygun, and like to me, like scaling a service is completely different than like just building a little app, right? And like this is a little app, and even if you put in like I'm connecting to another player, like it's still not a hard scaling problem to deal with. I worked on Words with Friends, which is a similar type of system, and like we were able to just add a ton of Ruby servers to kind of handle the load.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't that bad. Now, granted, there were times where like we were under the crush of millions of people like playing after dinner, and like that was tough to deal with. But when it comes to scaling, like a lot of times it's just deciding what makes the most sense. And like if live query is your problem, you move on to something else, I'm not like in this particular use case, I don't see live query being the problem. And you're right, like Chet Korkos made a comment that said with MongoDB, all the reactivity is handled inside of Node, especially when it comes to Meteor. But with Rethink DB, all the reactivity is handled in the database. So it's possible to think that Rethink uses more CPU, but you're not measuring it. I'd also be skeptical that Rethink DB's reactivity scales very well. I think any generic solution is going to have performance issues. So,
yeah. Also, in the example here, even though you're using Rethink, you're still piping it through a media publication using the lower level publish API to add whatever documents you get from Rethink DB. So I don't understand the overall gain here, but that's something to watch out, right?
You could theoretically still just use, like it would be weird, right? Because you're making requel queries on the server and then Mongo queries on the client with mini Mongo.
Yeah.
I mean, in reality, like we were talking about this the other day for a client project I'm doing, like mini Mongo is really just a client-side cache of data, right?
Yep.
It's just an in-memory data store that you can use. And so it's similar to things like Redux or any other store that you could find out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't know. I guess you build it one way on the back end and another way on the front end.
Yeah, kind of like gets away from the Meteor approach.
It does. I think, and so that's why I would say like something like Apollo or GraphQL starts to make more sense because you can write the resolvers on the back end, and then you're not really like you're just getting some data on the front end, doing what you want with it.
Yeah, and the API is a lot cleaner than having to manage two APIs, right? But anyway, that was cool.
Yeah.
The next article today is from Ben, and I'm gonna screw up his last name because it's really hard. Do good. Like doing good. Like do good.
Do good. Yeah.
Ben Do Good, who's apparently a university student at the University of Florida, and he's on Medium. He's been writing these several posts which are very well done, which is like adventures in asynchronous programming. And, he had one explaining the event loop. He had one talking about asynchronous functions. And then this post is about ES6 generators. And before we get into the post, because he goes into like how generators work, what are the methods, like a little, like some examples, which are really cool. Like I want to talk about like what generators solve, right? Like when we write functions today in JavaScript, we are assuming that a function is going to run and then it's going to end, right? And we don't have any assumptions of like, maybe pausing execution of functions and we don't have to worry about, like, we don't really have to worry about, multi-threaded problems where you're running several functions on several threads and they can conflict, or you pause one and you didn't start it, like all these little management issues because we're in a single threaded environment, which is JavaScript. But you still want to have this ability to pause execution. It's, you want to be able to pause execution of some process whenever the hell you want, because that's the kind of power you want as a developer, or if you're building some kind of complex system, you want those abilities to do that. So an ES6 generator is a new type of function. It's denoted with the star, and it allows you to essentially pause and restart and pause and resume functions, or return values, or do anything special that you want to do. And how it works is you create this function with this, pretty syntax, like the star syntax, and then you put these things called yield statements, and you can yield values. And Ben, he goes into all of that on the how generators control flow works, and he goes into there's like three methods that you really want to pay attention to. There's the generator.next, and that what that does is it essentially will pause. It'll run this function. It'll pause, and then it'll wait for a resume message. And like essentially, that next function is a resume the function type deal. And then there's return, and return just simply returns the value and terminates the whole function, which is pretty useful. And the great thing about this post is he has code examples, because a lot of this stuff is pretty hard to understand. And like, I guess, the real world application of generators can be found if people are interested in seeing like an actual library built with it. If you guys go look at Redux Saga, and it uses generator functions to do its action creators. All the asynchronous action creators in Redux, you can go look at Redux Saga. It's all built with generators, and it builds upon this exact function or generator function, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So great job, Ben Duguid. He really did good on that one.
And Ben's in the Space Dojo Slack channel too. So
he is, and his company, or not his company, but his projects, I think, are a lot like he's really diving into like the Redux, the functional programming, and I think that's what inspired these line of posts. So,
yeah, I really appreciate
functions. Generator functions in general are hard to understand, because you never really had the opportunity to use them before, until recently. And even then, you don't really understand where it fits in. And you could probably go your whole life without writing a generator function, and you'd be fine. Because I don't think there are that many use cases that you really need to use a generator function.
Yeah, there's definitely use cases, right? Like, so Ruby has similar concepts in it, and like I'm glad to see this and have this type of function back in the arsenal. So, see, I haven't. You're absolutely right. Like, I haven't had a chance to really find a use case where I could use one, but
yeah, the best way to learn them is just to start using them. And luckily, because I do a lot of Redux work, I got to get familiar with it. But you guys, if you're wanting to use generator functions, like try looking at a library that's using it for its implementation, so you can kind of understand how it works in context. Because as great as Ben's examples are, they're not really useful context for you to say like, oh yeah, this is a cool function. Let me go like into my big old app and like put it in there. It's really hard, but it's a great place to start.
Yep.
Cool.
All right. So Meteor 133 came out this week. I don't know. How did you feel about this one?
133.
Are you on 133 yet?
No, I am on 1324.
Okay.
And I refuse to upgrade for a bit, just to be safe. I'm not trying to get bad again.
Yeah.
Finally got through all that 1.3 BS, and our app is now running 1.3.
Nice. In production?
What?
In production?
We're going to launch it in production on Tuesday. Nice. So we're just testing it, making sure everything's cool. The funny thing is, people, when I announced that we finally merged, I told people like, all right, like you're not in the matrix anymore. You can get up and you can see the world now. And a lot of people who JavaScript wasn't their first language coming into our company, they assumed that like the old Meteor way of doing things was actually like how you do things, you know? So now we have people actually having to learn how NPM works and stuff like that. Because these are back-end developers. They didn't really know all this stuff going in. So it's going to be another learning process for us to teach and do all that. So anyway.
Yes. So I think there's a few interesting things in here, like Phantom.js is no longer shipping by default as a like part of the bundle. There's some changes to like how Babel is being run, how like they've added some new stuff to the import statements. So like number one, I would highly suggest people go and check out the changelog for this. And this is going to be the last release, unless there's some kind of security vulnerability. This will be the last release that uses Node 0.10.
Yep.
So the next release we'll see is 1.4, which is going to be started testing as release candidate soon, or at least as a beta soon. Which I'm super excited about. Like this is, to me, this feels like a filler release. There's some stuff in here, like they've got more like DDP callbacks are now batched on the client, so that's maybe kind of interesting. Cool. There's another thing in here. I should really read more on this. The meteor.apply now takes a no retry option to opt out of automatically retrying non-idempotent methods on connection book. And so if people don't know about this, like if a method hasn't returned and you run it and you didn't get that return value, but your connection like disconnects and reconnects to the DDP server, you're going to actually re-request that method to run. And that one has bit me in the butt a few times. The only reason I knew about it is because I had a long running method, like my very first experience with Meteor. I had a long running method that would say like, go stream this movie, and like, you know, a movie's like 2 hours. And so fire a request to the Apple TV to start streaming a movie. And like, it would just, if it died in the middle, like when it started back up, when the app started back up or something, then it would refire that call and start streaming the movie again.
Yeah.
So that was like my way of finding out that this would happen. And you can do, if you do like this.unblock and return right away.
Yep.
And you can still run code, that's fine. But it'll, you know, happen in the background and not retry later. But this is good that it looks like there's a way to tell it not to retry.
Yeah, that's really helpful on mobile. We run a couple methods on like our native apps that on like startup methods. But if you like disconnect, which happens frequently, like when you reconnect those methods fire. So we've hit some CPU intensive like times where all the mobile apps were just like firing, and sometimes they were even double calling the method on a restart. So you get like 2 methods firing. It was a bunch of bugs. And your CPU, when methods go long like that, you're just like, you're just going to shoot yourself in the foot, and your users are going to hate you probably. So
yeah. Another one that I found really, really interesting is the Mongo collections. You can now specify, like define mutation methods. Did you look at this at all?
I just pulled it up while we were talking.
So this is interesting because it looks like it allows you. So if people don't know this, like Meteor's client side inserts, right? Like the stuff you do allow deny for, like those are just methods. And so they're just defined on the server. When you define a collection, those are defined. And when you make that call, you're under the hood, you're really just making a method call. And so this now allows you to define your own, it looks like, if I'm reading this right, which is a little puzzling, right? Like you read the guide and you're like, allow deny is kind of not recommended for obvious reasons that we've been over on the show before. And like, why are we doing this? Why are we continuing down this path? I don't know. This is
I don't know, man. I think like for this new release, like this one, I think what excites me the most is the Babel compiler changes. So you can actually put your own Babel configurations, in the Babel RC file. So that's going to be really cool if you want to start writing ES7 or 2016 or 2017 or whatever number it is now, modern JavaScript. Want to start writing modern JavaScript? You can start doing that, which is super cool now. You can start using decorator functions and all that stuff, and even the generators and async await. So it kind of like opens the door there. So that's cool.
Yeah. I'm excited. I mean, again, I haven't used it, but I think it'll be good. But my hope is 1.4 follows pretty quickly behind it.
Yeah.
Like I think they wanted to just get a lot of this stuff into the code base so people could upgrade it incrementally, make sure everything works, nothing breaks in this release. And then when you make the leap to 1.4, like obviously I think that's going to be much bigger for a lot of people. Like moving to Node 4 is going to be, I think it's going to take some testing and some poking and prodding, like testing your entire app. We'll see.
Yeah. Also, another cool thing from 1.33 is you can do is server is client wraps around import statements. Because today you can't do that.
Yeah.
And that's actually really cool because now you can like structure your entry points a lot cleaner now.
Yeah. So the only thing that was kind of weird though was that in import, like some of the changes they made to import statements only apply to the application modules. They don't apply, like you can't use some of the new import stuff in packages. So I would definitely like take some time to look over that and whatnot.
Yeah, take some time to plan out your app going forward if you're using packages, because the way you migrate your code to imports or whatever you're going to do, it's going to be a little tricky. So
yeah, not at all. It's not tricky. Just kidding.
All right.
So NYC, yeah.
All right. So there's this thing called Meteor Camp that's on July 8th to 11th, and it's at the United Nations in New York City for this thing called Open Camps. And there's going to be a bunch of open camps in the month of July, and Adrian, right?
Lanning, yeah.
Adrian Lanning, or A. Lanning on Meteor or GitHub or whatever. Adrian Lanning, he's the organizer for the Meteor Open Camp, which is our Meteor Camp in New York City. So, and if you guys don't know, hopefully it's going to be a good big event. They're going to have a bunch of Meteor speakers, including Josh and myself, and the front runner, the person who's keynoting the whole thing is Arunoda, and this is actually a non-profit conference or camp or whatever, and they're using the donations and all that they've gotten to actually get Arunoda to come to the United States. So that's actually pretty cool. And there are other speakers like I think Abigail Watson is speaking. Some people from Classmates.io, which is another Meteor app. So there's going to be and Thomas Gold, I think. Is his name Thomas Gold? Thomas or whatever his name is. He blogs about React and Meteor. He's going to be there. So it's going to be a cool little Meteor conference. We haven't had an official one yet. We've had the unconferences. We've had Meteor or the Meteor Club camp, right? Space camp. So those are the Meteor events that have happened in the community. But we haven't had anything quite like this where people are going to be coming from all over the world or the states to come talk about Meteor. And actually, my talks are definitely not going to be about Meteor like per se, but it's like I'm going to be about like if you're using Meteor, how to like do some stuff. And I don't think that people should come. I think you would still learn something if you come to this event and you're not necessarily using Meteor in production. Like you're just using it for fun or something. You're still going to learn a lot about just general JavaScript.
Yeah.
And our Node is definitely going to, do some cool little demos, I'm sure. So
Yeah. Well, I think his talks on like what Meteor is going to look like in 2018, I think he said. that's quite the date target to pick. I think even picking 2017 is going to be hard to predict. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I still haven't decided what I'm going to talk on. I'm kind of torn. Like, I could do something on Cordova and building mobile apps, or I could do something on taking Meteor app to production, like some of the things you got to watch out for there. Or my other thought is like why you should be looking outside of Meteor and looking at other technologies, and why like being a one trick pony isn't good for your career.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think that's cool. Might be kind of like not in the right crowd for that kind of conversation. Maybe.
You never know.
Hopefully, it's not a bunch of Meteor fanboys and girls that are like super like diehard about like, because I'm gonna say DDP and PubSub sucks, and I don't want someone to come and like shoot me or something. Like don't want any of that stuff to happen.
Yeah.
But I think it's gonna be a great event, and they're actually accepting donations. So whether you can go or you can't go, those donations help get all the organizers. Get all the speakers to the place, and helps kind of sponsor the event. They're going to give out lunch and stuff. So essentially, if you really care about this whole open source and the tech community of Meteor, you could contribute and pledge like $20 or something like that if you have the money, and do that. And it'd be cool. It'll help Adrian out and help pretty much all the speakers out too, because we're going to be taking time out of our days and coming and doing all this stuff. So I haven't even bought my plane ticket, so I'm screwed, but it's going to be fun. I'm going to make a little trip out of it.
Yeah. We're gonna drive in. We got a new car a couple months ago just for like, we don't have a trailer yet, but for hauling a trailer, for taking long road trips with the family. And so we're gonna load that thing up, and we're gonna drive in Tuesday, I think the 5th. And we're going to stay like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I guess we'll leave Sunday to come back home because the kids have stuff going on that Monday. But we're going to make a little family trip out of it. So it should be...
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, fun and exciting. Like, my kids have never been to New York City, so it's going to be a new life experience for them.
I haven't even been to New York City, so...
Really? Nice.
Cool. Yeah. I'm a California guy, man. I don't leave. Why would I leave this sun out here, man? Look at that blue sky.
Nice.
Hopefully it's not cold or super hot there.
Man, today's actually been pretty nice here. It's like 85 out, high of 85.
Oh, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty sunny. But yeah, so please, everyone, if you're interested, come.
It's Meteor Camp NYC.
Yeah.
And
nice all the links will be in the show notes, so you guys can do your thing.
Oh, most definitely. And so I guess that's it. But thank you for listening. We'll be back next week. I think maybe we'll do a show. I'll bring my Rode audio gear, and maybe we can do a show. Maybe to see it's an excuse to get a nice mic for that thing, huh?
Yeah.
And we could even continue doing the video. That could be nice. With like you, me, and Aeronoda or something. Or
that'd
be hell of fun.
You know what we could do, and here's a really interesting idea, is like I know Ken C. Dodds, when he went to AngularConf for his JavaScript Air podcast, he would like do like 2-minute Q&A with the person that just came off or just talked, or who was a speaker for the day. They would just do 2-minute Q&As. So maybe what we could do is we could cover the whole weekend or the days that we're there, and we just do like talk to the actual people that are presenting. Yeah. And that could be a lot of good content for our show.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I've got nice gear. It's like a Zoom H6 and some heads-up mics, and I got 3 of them, and we can plug it into the Zoom. So me and another person, like we could just have like a quick 2 to 5 minute conversation, like you're saying.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, all right.
Cool.
We'll do it.
Let's do it.
Do it live.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. As always, check out modulus.io and digitalocean.com. If you're looking for hosting, they're the best.
Yeah. And if you disagree with anything we said on the show, hit up those YouTube comments because I'm going to reply to them.
Nice.
I've been doing the replies. So
yeah. You've been. Someone was asking about. Well, that was Space Dojo show, but they were asking about like Redux and stuff. So
yeah,
you guys are having a conversation. So that's pretty awesome. And as always, Patreon, patreon.com/Meteor Club, and you can for $10 a month you can join. For any amount you can support the show, and then for $10 a month you can join the Slack channel and get access to some of the smartest dang people I know.
Yep.
All right, next time.
See ya.
This video has been a Space Dojo production. You can click the Learn More button to find out more about us at spacedojo.com. Or you can click the subscribe button to get notified about new videos we put out each week. Thanks for watching.